If Jesus came down and was the vote counter, I would win California, okay?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
To the vice president, and then the recent polling showed President Biden 5 points behind in North Carolina, and it's very, very tight right now. So go back to the map. It brings us to 264 to 258. Again, 270 is what you need to win. And guess what remains? Georgia. Georgia remains. It was the closest contest in 2020, decided by less than a quarter of a percentage point in favor of President Biden. Our recent polling showed the widest gap, 6 points, for former President Trump over President Biden. But now that has closed. Harris has a 2-point lead in our latest poll. It's expected to be a close race. That's obviously within the margin of error, but both candidates are spending a lot of time in Georgia, and if that lead holds, she wins Georgia, she wins the presidency.
Wait, how does it go again? Oh, that's right. That's gotta hurt! And hurt it will, considering the egomaniac in question. A man whose Truth Social ranting has gone from unhinged, conspiratorial QAnon slogans to sharing vile misogynistic slur.
Harris and running mate Tim Walz are closing out day one of a 2-day campaign through Georgia, the state that new polling just put out tonight suggests may be winnable for her in November. Her opponent was not on the trail today, though it was just 2 days ago that the former president's campaign was saying we'd be seeing Trump on steroids, meaning more appearances in battleground states in the days and weeks ahead. Instead, with the exception of visits to Arlington National Cemetery in Detroit on Monday and a taped interview with Dr. Phil last night, the main place to find the former president has been on social media. Yesterday, he was raging against the new indictment that Jack Smith secured in the election interference case. Today, he took it to a whole other level. The former president of the United States, who wants to be the next president, is now directly spreading the slogans of the conspiracy cult QAnon, as well as posting a crude, sexist, and misogynistic slur online. Reposting, to be precise, which means he didn't come up with it himself, but liked it so much that he wanted the rest of the world to see it, which is both a gentle introduction and a warning.
So if you thought the frequency of Donald Trump's meltdowns had increased, then you'd be correct. They are relentless and compounded by the fact that his once favorite network don't seem to be playing ball with him anymore, to the point that he's threatening to take his ball and run home, hitting some buttons on the way.
Mr. President, thank you for joining us. You were truth socialing along this speech. What is your first reaction to it real time tonight?
Well, the biggest reaction is, why didn't she do the things that she's complaining about? It was a lot of complaining. She didn't talk about China. 70% of our people are living in poverty. I was there today, as you know, Brett. It's an invasion of our country taking place at our border. Well, she knows I have nothing to do with Project 25. They throw it out. I lower taxes. She's raising taxes of 4 to 5 times what people and companies are paying right now. The country will go into a depression if they do it. Nobody can borrow money. People can't go to the American dream and buy a house because they can't afford the interest rate. And even if they could, the money isn't available. Look, she's a Marxist. She always was. She always will be. What they're going to do is pick up and move to another country like the #1 debate on September 4th at Fox, and she turned it down. And I'm willing to debate on, I don't like ABC. I think ABC is probably the worst of the group. CNN does not treat me or Republicans very good. But you know better than anybody. I'm ready. Horrible. It was a horrible bill. It was a joke. I stood at the border today in 100-degree weather. I said, sir, it's really dangerous here. I think it's time to leave. Many of them from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums.
But I strongly suggest that his handlers hide the ketchup, as Fox News gave this prediction recently.
Heading now out east to North Carolina. Former President Trump is also ahead there by 1 point. We'll say that he wins the state of North Carolina. We are going to give the state of Arizona to the vice president. And then the recent polling showed President Biden 5 points behind in North Carolina, and it's very, very tight right now. So go back to the map. It brings us to 264 to 258. Again, 270 is what you need to win. And guess what remains? Georgia. Georgia remains. It was the closest contest in 2020, decided by less than a quarter of a percentage point in favor of President Biden. Our recent polling showed the widest gap, 6 points, for former President Trump over President Biden. But now that has closed. Harris has a 2-point lead in our latest poll. It's expected to be a close race. That's obviously within the margin of error, but both candidates are spending a lot of time in Georgia, and if that lead holds, she wins Georgia, she wins the presidency of the United States.
Host Brett Baier held a discussion on what he thinks the electoral map will look like, and he gave it to Kamala Harris. Now, this comes in the wake of Trump claiming that the momentum in favor of Kamala is, of course, fake news orchestrated by the media, only he failed to mention Fox. So what's your excuse now, Donnie, that your most prized megaphone isn't playing to your tune fully anymore? Could it be that it's not fake news and the American people would maybe just rather the prosecutor over the felon, the woman from a middle-class family who worked at McDonald's to fund her education, over the billionaire who breezed through a world of open doors, leaving the stench of nepotism aftershave in the air?
So let me tell you exactly what Vice President Harris and I will do when we get elected. As president, then President Harris will sign the PRO Act, making it easier for unions to organize. We'll protect Safer Grant program. It's good to see you say this. If you have to spend any time thinking if you want to support the PRO Act, that pretty much tells you where you're at, because that's a pretty easy one. Same thing with the Safer Grant program. We know it's essential to helping serve and protect communities, especially as we starting to see intensive heat waves. We'll keep fighting to protect your retirement benefits, lowering taxes for working families, and finally making corporations just pay their fair share. They're doing fine. They're doing fine. They can pay their fair share. And again, things like Social Security, things like the GI Bill, programs that make a difference, paid family and medical leave, affordable childcare so you can go do your job. That just makes sure that families aren't just surviving and getting by, but they're thriving and getting ahead.
Because that's what this poll and many others would suggest. That's what simultaneous packed crowds in the middle of the DNC would suggest.
Not only do we have massive energy at our convention, we got a hell of a lot more energy at where they had their convention right here. So, this yeah. Oh, that one guy's going to be so sad tonight. So sad. So sad. So sad.
But through the narcissistic gaze of Donald Trump, of course this can't be true. I mean, how can a woman be generating this much momentum over him? Not possible, right? Well, I tell you, it doesn't take much to motivate me into speaking out against the convicted felon and adjudicated sexual predator. But when I see posts like this...
And then there is this, a photo of Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. The caption, which I'm not going to read out, is demeaning of both women and contains a vulgar reference to oral sex acts. Now remember, again, this is the Republican candidate for president and the 45th president of the United States talking about two women who, no matter what you think of their politics, are two of the most accomplished women in American political history. This is what he chose to amplify, which, as extreme as it is not exactly out of character when it comes to him and women.
She was by far the nastiest to Joe Biden. There was nobody nastier than her.
She was extraordinarily nasty to Kavanaugh. She was nasty to a level that was just a horrible thing. She was probably nastier than even Pocahontas.
By the racist Attorney General of New York State, Letitia Peekaboo James.
How about low IQ Maxine Waters?
Omarosa is obviously the ultimate villain and the nastiest. I think it's a very nasty question when you ask a continue in a very hostile, nasty tone. What a stupid question. But I watch you a lot. You ask a lot of stupid questions.
Just moments ago, a Harris campaign spokesman put out a statement quoting him now, Donald Trump is out of his mind. If a family member posted what Donald Trump is sharing today, Americans would rightly be concerned. But this is what Donald Trump and his Project 2025 agenda offer America: prosecuting political opponents, using dangerous conspiracy theories to justify harmful policies, and dividing Americans against each other.
I'll spend every moment I have ensuring that this utterly abhorrent excuse for a man is never elected president again. I vow that. How anyone who happens to even know a female is able to excuse this blatant bigotry and vote for this pig is beyond me. And it's not as if it would come as a surprise either. I mean, the bar's been at rock bottom since he came down that golden escalator, but somehow he still finds a way to go lower, doesn't he?
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.